Hello guys, hello. Welcome back to another deep topic style video. I finished Ghost of Yotei recently. I made a review video on it and I thought it was very good, so I would recommend you guys play it. But, the main theme of the game is revenge, right? And forgiveness as well to a certain extent. I thought maybe that would be interesting to talk about as a sort of deeper video. Maybe it helps someone or someone helps someone think about those kind of things in relation to their own life. But yeah, let's get into it. Now, revenge. This should be interesting to talk about. When you talk about the word revenge, at least when I would hear it, people think of like pretty extreme cases, right? They think like, hurting someone physically, something like that. Like more of an extreme example. But I feel like nowadays there's sort of different views on it, different ways to how people sort of interact with it and take it, I guess. But the example I mentioned, it obviously exists, right? And I'd say it's probably the more common way of it being seen even though it's extreme. Like you see in stories like Ghost of Yotei, you see in like movies or whatever. But people tend to talk about success as well now in relation to it. There's like a quote was like success is the best revenge, which you probably heard of, right? And I do agree with that one, I think. You know, the reason I say that is I had a lot of rough experiences back in the day, you know, and I think because of those experiences, I was more like apathetic, more nervous towards people. I had a lot of people that I really did not like. Unfortunately, those feelings still are kind of here, but because it happened so long ago, and I feel like I've just progressed a lot personally. Those things aren't as there anymore, but it's still important to at least accept I still have those things because of what happened back in the day. Now, people might say like, "Oh, you should forgive them," or they might have changed, or forgive them makes it easy for you to live your life. But like, I just can't agree with that. I don't doubt those opinions and viewpoints are true, right? Because they are common. Those things are common for a reason, of course, right? So I don't doubt that they're true. But when people have wronged you that much for no real reason, then like it's kind of hard to forgive them, right? I feel like that's a pretty reasonable feeling. There might be some bias, and maybe I did something wrong which I didn't see as wrong because it's my perspective, so I might have that bias. But I feel like I didn't do anything wrong enough to be treated in the way that I was. At the end of the day, I just believe that I was just an easy target for certain reasons, and people took advantage of that. They knew for a fact, right? I wasn't gonna sort of do anything in retaliation back, whether physically or just verbally or anything. And I do think at the time, especially because I was a kid, right? Those choices were make sense to make, made sense to make, but I feel like it didn't change the fact that the consequences from not saying those things were not good either. I do wish I could kind of forgive those people, right? But I feel like at this current point, it's not really possible for me. It's just how it is. Now, I do want to clarify, like, in relation to what I just said, I might not feel like I did anything wrong to be treated the way I did. But in other experiences or to other people, and in general life, I have definitely said things and done things that I shouldn't have and that I look at with regret and a decent amount of regret, actually. Where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said this, I shouldn't have done that. Because those were very obvious things I just shouldn't have done when I look back on it. But those are mistakes that I did make and I acknowledge that. And it's stuff that I'm not proud of, definitely not, but I do want to learn from them and try to forgive myself as well, which is important to forgive yourself too. I think that's a very important thing to do. But yeah, I think that's also something that I just want to clarify in case anyone thinks that, because obviously I'm not perfect at all, so yeah. So like the overall point I'm trying to make with those past couple of points is that even though those were bad experiences for me, I still use it as a way to sort of stay on my grind, I guess, and to stay going towards my goals. I think obviously you can have a good childhood and all of that and still be disciplined, all that, of course, right? But I do think having some negative experiences, it made it, at least for me, more easier to just stay on the grind and not give in to certain vices that those people were more easily able to give into. I feel like if you can't even have a basic level of respect for others, then it's a lot more difficult to even just be on the sort of disciplined path and be respectful to yourself as well, I think. And I think the mentality of wanting to be better is something that I can keep because, while I understand why I made the decision I made back then and why, at least maybe why I was treated the way I was by some people, I can't help but sometimes be annoyed at who I used to be. for not having that focus and determination that I do now. Obviously, I'm just not like I'm trying to say I'm like some crazy disciplined David Goggins kind of guy or anything. Of course not, right? Like not even close to that. But I do think, in the past few years, I've done quite a lot of myself for myself, and I've improved, pretty much in every aspect, at least as best as I can, through my own hard work and obviously through the support of my very, very good friends that I have now and my family as well, right? I would say for someone my age, 'cause I'm pretty young, like I'm doing well in terms of sort of my personal development. I've made a lot of improvements, and I feel like I, I don't have any proof for it, but those people that did the things that they did to me, I don't think they've done it like that improvement to the level that I have. Now that I understand what having especially good friends is like, it makes it so much easier to also stay on a better path as well and improve yourself and just be better when you have actual people that care about you and that you care about a lot and improving together. That community that you build, it makes it so much easier. And those friends know who they are. But I appreciate them a lot as well. I really do, for helping me or making my life easier as well. The main caveat to like all of this is that you can't argue that these people are kind of living rent free in my head, right? Which I can't exactly disagree with. This is, it's true on a fundamental level, but the thing that I do want to mention is that I am doing all of this for myself and not for really anyone else. So the path that I've chosen to take is pretty much fully based on what I wanted to do and not based on anyone else's opinion outside of the people that I care about, like my family and my friends and stuff, and some advice to take from them or their perspective on things is stuff that I do take into consideration, right? But outside of those people, then yeah, I just do whatever I think is the right decision. So those decisions I have made in terms of where I'm heading and the steps I've taken so far to get there, they weren't really ones that people would have initially supported because they would have thought it was like a weird thing to do. It's not really normal, I guess. Even though I feel like nowadays it's not as bad, but even a few years ago, right, some of the steps I've taken or decisions I've made to progress were things that people would definitely consider weird or not normal, I guess, not common. But now, with the results that I've achieved for myself from those things, right, people suddenly respect me and what I've done and sort of the effort I've put in, right. And I guarantee that some of those people would not have been as enthusiastic to tell me those things before I saw produced results. I heard a quote somewhere about how people think you're weird or crazy for doing something before they start seeing results from you or you start seeing results, and then suddenly everyone talks as if they were just supporting you the whole time, which I do think is kind of interesting phenomenon, right? Not that it really matters, right? Because at the end of the day, I pretty much, when I want to stress this, right, I did it because it's something that I wanted to do. Like as long as your bigger goals that you want to aim for yourself, then you can feel good knowing that whilst the journey to the goal might be really tough, both in direct and indirect ways, the end result will be something that you can be very, very much proud of, because you've put all that effort in, and that effort does show as well, physically, or that people can see. I think people can see it. Whether they want to encourage that, praise that, or not is another problem. But I do think when you put your best foot forward and you do what you can, people can see that, and the right people will respect you and encourage you and help you sort of go further as well. So my overall point really is just, if you have that desire for, I guess, revenge. I feel like revenge is, even when I say it, it feels like a strong word, but rather than revenge, I guess a better way to view it is, if you have the desire to want to be better in for negative reasons from a negative source, you want to be better than other people from that negative source. I think instead of that, you should just, as best as you can, and I'm still working on this too, right? Sort of try to remove that, or at least acknowledge it and not put too much focus on it, and then focus on the goals that you want to do, or the things that you're passionate about, for the sake of yourself and for the sake of just being better for yourself and the sort of positive people around you. Want to be better for them, right? Instead of just the people that wronged you before. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I thought I'd be interested to talk about this topic because obviously I just finished Ghost of Yotei. I really liked the story for the thing. I thought it was really good. Well, at least maybe not to say the story. I mentioned that in my review, but I really like the characters and how they sort of develop and stuff. That's why I thought it'd be interesting to talk about in an actual, like, real life scenario. Because obviously I'm not a mercenary, I'm not a samurai or anything. So my situation is going to be no idea as extreme as these characters and situations, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about in terms of modern day, like in terms of how my life ran. I feel like some people might be able to relate to that, understand that. So I thought that's why I talk about it. But yeah, I think that's kind of it, really. This is kind of what I wanted to talk about this. That'll be interesting. I hope you guys got some sort of value out of it. I think it's a good thing to talk about at least. But yeah, just please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it may be. Take care, peace, guys. Bye bye.